Perfect. We'll just make sure we are. What did I do? I don't think it's live. Okay, hold on 1 second. Something just happened. Okay, so we're live. Okay. All right, let's see. We're going to get started in 30 seconds. Okay, perfect. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited that you are here. I am one of the moderators. I am Dr. Mellisa Lambert out of the great state of Florida, and I'm so excited to be here moderating with Bertha aRise, which is Dr. Bertha White. H.C. is and we're so excited just to know that we are able to come and have this dialogue today. I'm excited, because I truly believe this is a conversation that normally takes place in the barbershop, normally take place in the kitchen or in the garage. But these amazing gentlemen has given us some time to have this dialogue today. And I'm going to decrease and introduce to you a woman that is truly, I admire her. I admire her gifting. I admire her poise, how she is in the community, her as an expert in the field of mental health, and just what she's doing, how she's taken her business from just not being in the doors, but now outside the walls, where she's able to reach people as an expert, as a consultant in the field of mental health. Dr. Bertha White is truly a trailblazer and is doing so much great things and more to come. I will decrease so she can increase. She is the CEO and the founder of Bertha aRise. And this is an organization, a company that is taking mental health outside the walls, in the streets, in the community, in the states, and very soon around the world. So please welcome to the stage your host for today, Dr. Bertha White. She is the CEO and founder of Bertha aRise.
Thank you so much, Miss Mellisa. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm so excited about this. And I'm getting great comments that are already coming in just from seeing the flyer. And no one has heard the discussion yet. So I am so excited that you all are here. Let me just dive right in. We're about to have a powerful discussion. Not just a powerful discussion, but it is going to be with wisdom, with transparency, all for the purpose of strengthening relationships. So you all will get the opportunity to participate. If you have any comments, as Mellisa said, please chime in with your comments. And don't forget to write down your questions, because you're going to be involved in this discussion. Now, I want to introduce to you 4 gentlemen that are dynamic. First, Moses Jones Lewis is a native of Wintersville, Ohio. He's a proud husband of 25 years and a proud father of 3 children, ages 19, 15, and 12. Moses said he always wanted to be a husband and father whose wife, children, mother, father, sister, mother-in-law, and father-in-law would be proud to say, yes, he's ours. We have with us Darrell Dandridge, who's born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. He served 6.5 years in the Army, some of which was during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and he's currently working in manufacturing. Darrell is the father of 4 women, has 2 grandchildren, and is divorced. Darrell says what he wants to leave us all with is some wisdom about how to make our relationships better. We have with us Dr. Anthony E. Jones, who is also a native of Youngstown, Ohio. He is the Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion at Center College, with degrees from the University of Mount Union and Eastern Kentucky University. Anthony has been married for several years and has 2 children. He says what he's hoping to share is something that'll help someone to have a healthier relationship. And that's what it's all about. Excuse me. Find time to get an itchy throat. We also have with us Rodney White, a 22-year retired Army veteran and Bronze Star Medal recipient who proudly served in 4 combat deployments. He was born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, and now resides in Hughesville, Maryland. Rodney is a devoted husband of 35 years, father of 2 men, and pop-up to 3 grandchildren. Rodney holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and is pursuing a master's degree in emergency management. Rodney is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and is currently serving as deputy branch chief and emergency management specialist in the federal government. Rodney says he wants to leave men with the message that you are not alone. All right, all right. We are about to dive right into our discussions. Yes, indeed. Let's start off with understanding these pillars that we're talking about. We're talking about love, trust, honesty, money, communication, but we need to break it down. Starting with love. Let me ask you, I'm going to just take each panelist separately, so you got a few minutes to organize your thoughts and we can all jump in because I know you all have a lot to say and a lot of points to make. So, love is the foundation, we say, of a relationship. Now, men and women define love differently, but I'd like to know how you all look at love. What does it mean? What does that word mean from your perspective? And then, how do you need to be shown love? What is love from your perspective, and how should you be shown love? All right. Let's start with Rodney.
Okay, put me on the hot seat real quick. Those are good questions. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so to me, love is defined differently between men and women, husband and wives. In my opinion, love for men means respect. Okay, it's respect. It's not so much of an emotional thing. It's how you're treated, and it just boils down to respect. Let me say that. What does that look like? A lot of people think that when men talk about respect me, that means, I want to stand on the table and roar and you do as I say, do as I do. And it's not necessarily that, it's just an appreciation and understanding for what we do, acknowledgement for what we do and how we take care of things. I often say one of the hardest jobs in the world is being a Black man. And, I could define that offline, but my thing with love is really more respect than anything else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good, good, good. Okay, so Moses, what would you say? Would you add anything other than respect? Is there anything else you want to add about what love is from your perspective, a man's perspective, and how you need to be shown love? What is it, and how do you need to be shown love as a man? You're on mute.
I apologize. I want to first start off by saying I don't see it any different than the way women do or should see love. I believe we often confuse physical attraction, physical pleasure, emotional attachment, and words of affirmation as love. And I disagree with that. Bell Hooks taught me that love is an action verb. So I'm going to repeat that. I see love as an action verb, not a feeling. It can be measured and is objective, not just a subjective feeling. I
Mm-hmm.
believe feelings come and go. they're fleeting. So I see love as an action verb. And I can get further into it later about the different components of that action verb that make it worthwhile and successful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Darrell, what do you want to add about what love looks like from your perspective? And what is it that you need to be shown as a sign of love?
That's good. Hello, everybody. Well, love, in my opinion, once again, is respect. I do believe, as Trey said, it is an action as well. But I also, I am more of it as feeling like, yes, action. I need somebody to show me that, you have to show me your love, that you love me, and I have to feel that, it's easily said and not shown by people. So on both sides, men and women. So I would prefer, and it takes work as well, because you have to constantly work at it, and show your mate, your partner daily that you love them.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Now that is a great foundation. Just scroll down. Can you give us a few examples of these action words we're talking about, Anthony? How do you show it? We're talking about action words. And where does, I suppose, compassion is an action? Yeah. Did we consider commitment and trust and mutual respect as actions? I wrote down a few things: deep care, warmth, understanding as actions. So aside from those things, how is it that you can receive love in an action? What does that look like? Anthony.
Yeah, I think so when I think about, and I'll start with how I define it before I talk about the action piece of it. I think I define love as an intangible thing, and I think I agree with everyone who spoke prior. But I don't believe it's something that you can necessarily buy for someone. I don't think it's not something you can necessarily, like, you have to, I think love comes with experiences, and how you've worked through those experiences together. And then that love can manifest itself. And I do think there is some nuances between how women love and how men love, because I do think men's love is rooted more in the trust portion of it. And that needs to happen in order for a lot of other things to take place in that process of love. So I think it's one of those intangible things. Like, you have to live together, you have to experience together, you have to kind of go through some things, and that can take me down a lot of different rabbit holes on how men love, and I guess I'll speak for me, how I see love and how I define it. So when you put that in the action space, again, I don't think love is something that you can. It's not like, I need a couple dollars, can you give it to? It's like, I am emotionally going through something right now, and how did you show up for me in that moment? Were you a battery in my back? Did you give me power? Did you give me strength? Did you uplift me? Did you keep me going? Like, I think those are the things where you like, I love this woman and I need this woman, because this woman, or this person, because I won't put that just on gender, this person has helped me become better, helped me become stronger. Like, those are the things that, when I say it's intangible, that, in my opinion, wraps itself around and defines love, and those action pieces of it that makes you feel like this is a real thing, and opposed to someone trying to get something out of you or something along those lines.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything that they want to add before I ask you about those experiences? Moses. Want to ask
Yes,
something? Mhm.
I agree, and I add to it. I believe love is truly the will to extend oneself to nurture the growth of oneself and others.
Mhm.
I think it just comes down to that. Are
Mhm.
you willing to extend yourself? And extending yourself requires some actions that can be measured.
Yes.
They're not subjective. I think of things such as components like care, affection, recognition, respect, as many people have said. I don't know if we agree, I would agree with what that means, but respect, commitment,
Commitment.
trust and honest communication. I say love is a choice and a verb requiring consistent effort, and here's a tough one. It cannot by any means coexist with abuse or neglect.
Absolutely not.
Because those are
That's a good point.
antithesis to what is truly the action of love. Because love does not hurt.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Thank
tell my
you for
kids.
saying that. Go ahead. I'm
Love
listening.
does not hurt.
No. I am so loving this. I just want to bring in our online viewers as well. LaShawn Ingram on YouTube is saying that it's the work that we have to be willing to put in, even when we don't want to. So thank you, LaShawn,
Excellent point. Excellent point. Excellent point. Now, and I agree with all of that. I most certainly agree with every bit of it. But what happens when it breaks a little bit? The next question I want you to kind of think about is how to rebuild love when it's fading, when you're not getting all of those action words and those non-tangibles that you just spoke about. How do you rebuild love? Can love be rebuilt? What does that take?
I think that takes, I think that takes constant communications. That's the key root to everything is, and not just communications, it's honest communications. At that, you have to be willing to lay some things on the table, some truths on the table, some hard truths on the table, that some people may not necessarily want to hear. But if this is something that you feel that you need to rebuild something that is important to you in this relationship, it's important that you lay all those things out. And then once you lay them out, then there are decisions to be made. If you can either comply or you cannot comply. But constant communications is the key, I believe.
And we're going to
I
get
agree
to,
with
when
that.
we get down to communications, what it looks like when it breaks down. Can you trust that the partner is going to receive your communication? Would that be a reason for you to hesitate and not be honest based on how your partner is going to receive your information? So think on that one too. Okay, so then, is there anything else you all want to say from a man's perspective, not just your perspective, but I know you all have had your barbershop talk, and I know you all have been in the garage having your conversation with your cigar and things like that. Is there any other description of what love looks like that you've heard that hasn't been said here today yet?
I would chime in and just talk about I just think we have to be mindful of how your love was built, especially when we talk about that reconstruction process. It's hard to build anything on a bad foundation. And it's hard to rebuild something that wasn't constructed well in the first place. So I really think you just have to be very intentional, very thoughtful, very honest in that process of generating love, beginning to love someone, allowing someone to love you. Those things have to be real on the front end. So then if there's a situation that now we have to try to get back to where we were, that's difficult to do if it was bad in the first place. So, I think even if you build a relationship on lies, it's always going to be that way. But if you built it on truth, it's easier to try to rebuild those situations if they fall apart.
Does it take some time to establish being authentic in a relationship and comfortable with your truth? And then what happens if you feel like it's not accepted?
I think that's a big mistake, is that I think the best time to be honest with somebody is when you first meet them. And I think we are under the impression that we shouldn't be. And now you're trying to backtrack to be real when you, because it's like, I don't even know you like that. Why am I lying to you? I think that's the best time to be honest with somebody, and you built on that. You see if they're like, you built on that honesty process. That's my philosophy. If we can just be upfront out the gate, then there's nothing to hide on the back end. But if I've been trying to create this person for you, now I'm forced to try to keep this thing up, and at some point I'm not going to keep it up, and then now here we are, and we're trying to rebuild something that wasn't real in the first place. So I'm just like, be honest out the gate. It would make things a whole lot easier on the back end.
You know what? I would say that works, but oftentimes we meet the representative before we meet the real person. You know, you know, the representative is always the one putting the best foot out. You know what I'm saying? And one you see decide that they want you to see, but that's not always the right person. Now, I'm with you, Anthony. You know what I'm saying? Why not put it out from the jump? You know, but oftentimes I think people get caught up in trying to impress people. You know what I'm saying? Trying to impress their boyfriend, future boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, or whatever. You know, often I told one of my sons before, I said, when he was dating, I said, you know, if you start high, you got to stay high. Meaning that if you're on a date and you're gonna be buying these expensive gifts, you know what I'm saying? You got to stay at that level. But if that's not where you really are, you know what I'm saying? You can't maintain that. Well, the reality is, no, I'm sorry, babe. I can only take you to McDonald's. I can't always take you to Ruth Chris. You know what I'm saying? Ruth Chris is like a birthday, holiday, special thing, but we're gonna be eating at Wendy's or Burger King or whatever. So again, I'm gonna repeat myself. Oftentimes we meet the representative before we meet the actual person.
It generally speaking takes about 6 months. For the real mask, about 6 months. It's a lot sooner for a lot of folks, but about 6 months for this mask to come off and for you to see who the real person is. We do often rush through our relationships, you know, and at the 6-month period, we calling it love kind of thing. And you really haven't gotten the chance to know who it is that you saying you love. And we're gonna dive into a few other things, but in that 6-month period, finances is rarely discussed.
Before we get into finances, can I share something before I forget real quick to that question you asked? I agree with what Dr. Jones said, but I want to come back to it and press a little bit more.
Okay.
And I apologize in advance because this may be somewhat of an uncomfortable truth. But honestly, as Black males and females, we're often unable to tell the truth that a vast majority of us are coming out of dysfunctional families of origin.
Come on.
And therefore don't truly have a solid foundation in understanding and expectation for what love is. And therefore, these early intimate bonds make it difficult for us to achieve emotional maturity and well-being that will foster the growth of each other. I just think that's because I think we have some work to go back and fix some things for ourselves, honestly, in order to prepare ourselves to fully give to someone else. And here's another one, receive love. Oftentimes we don't know, not only not know how to give love, we're not prepared to receive love when it comes to us.
That part. I love that. I mean, when I think about just sitting right there and listening, and we started this conversation saying the foundation, and we're talking about love. But as I hear everyone talk, I'm thinking that we got to switch that from love to communication, because it seemed like the first thing, you can't say, I love you. I love you, Darrell. I love you. Like, it's really the first concept of that building that foundation is that communication. And I love what Moses says, because the problem with so many of us nowadays is the trauma, the childhood trauma, the mama trauma, the daddy not being there trauma, the trauma, like all that stuff. And then we bring that in because it's undealt with. We bring that into every relationship, and then the relationship fail because we come in expecting this person to be like that other person or better, not realizing the person you didn't even communicate. Look, this is what's going on with me. This is what happened to me. And this is my triggers. We didn't communicate that. So
I
because
mean, with honesty.
that honesty, right?
Mhm.
So I just really believe just having this dialogue, I truly feel the foundation, hearing you guys is not first love.
It's
The
communication.
foundation has to start with learning how to communicate. And when you can communicate, you can tell me, listen, I have some trauma that I'm still dealing with.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right?
And let me say too, that whole process can take time coming from where you just spoke, coming
Yeah.
from broken relationships, coming from, not receiving emotional, affection and understanding how emotions work. How are you going to give it to somebody? And where is your model to show you how to give it to somebody?
Yeah, if the model was broke,
With
where are you
that,
getting it from? Yeah, if the model was broke, where are you getting it from?
where you getting it from? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Some
That
of
is
us
that is a
work.
truth. That is a truth. Because I want to say this. I've been married almost 36 years, and I think within like the last 5 years, or a little bit more than that, we have been able to communicate a whole lot better than we have in our early years. So yes, communications is not an easy thing for a lot of people.
Mhm.
It's not easy, but if you love the person and they love you back, what I'm saying, again, there's that word love. You'll try to communicate as much as possible. So yes, Mellisa, communications is the key to a lot of it.
One of the keys. One of the keys.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a big. You ever saw those plumbers and well, not the plumbers, but like when you have a maintenance person come to the house, he has a big stack of keys. I just
Yeah.
feel like we're gonna be adding to the bunch, right? But I Corey said something here in our chat. Love is priceless and has no limitations. So when the fade-in phase is challenged due to a crisis that might have transpired in one or the other's life, or one or the others may have hit a financial decline. And that's when the unconditional aspect of love should be activated in its challenging phase. Can anyone speak to that comment that was made by Corey in the chat?
Well, let me say that takes to achieve what Corey is talking about through transparency. And you have to depend on your partner receiving your truth without judging you, without giving you the side eye, because that just doesn't sound right, and not understanding your process and not validating you. So in order to get to, I think, to get to where we're talking about, one has to feel comfortable enough with their partner to tell them their truth. And it is our responsibility to receive it. Now, you can validate what your partner is saying. That doesn't mean you agree with it. That just means you understand what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? And so being able to do that, I think, really helps the line of communication and trust. Just as Corey was saying. Someone is saying something down there, Miss Mellisa. I don't know
Yes,
what that
Mr.
says. That's too small for me to
said,
read.
Real quick, Bertha. I don't
Yes.
know if I agree. I don't know if I agree that love is unconditional.
Yeah.
I
come on.
do think
Oh,
the
no, did I say
conditions.
that? I don't think so.
No, that's coming
No,
from Corey's
Corey was
comment, I
saying,
believe.
yes.
Oh, Corey. Okay.
So I do think those conditions are determined by the person that you make those conditions with. And I think we go back to what Rodney said earlier, where now you are buying all of these expensive gifts, you are setting some conditions to that love. Now, if you're not able to maintain that, those conditions could affect the relationship. So I think it is very important that you are intentional about some of those conditions or those maybe even undiscussed terms that are vital to if y'all are together or if y'all are not. Now, I think you need to choose wisely on who you're with, and you don't run into some of the problems that some other people may. But I definitely think love has some conditions based on who you set those
The
conditions up
action.
with.
Yeah.
hmm
I like
Moses,
that.
you were saying, Moses. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, it comes back to those actions. I'm a real big contractual type person. And I know that might be difficult in some relationships. I know it was in some of my past relationships. But for me, it's like, okay, let's put it on paper.
Mm.
What is it that you expect in this relationship?
Mhm.
And here are my expectations in a relationship. And so when you are not meeting those expectations, we can come back and show where you agreed to do that when it was on paper.
Mm.
And so for me, it's really about let's have something set in place so that we have the reminders in place. We,
Mm.
as a couple, we defined what love should look like. And when we step outside as individuals of what that love that we agreed should look like, you need to pull me up, pull me to the side and say, listen,
Let's
here's
talk
where
about
you are
this.
missing the mark. Let's
Uh-huh.
talk about it.
Yeah,
So
we're
Moses,
making each other accountable to our
Accountable.
commitments.
That's part of that. That is a
Mhm.
part of that contractual agreement
Mhm.
in love.
Yes.
so Moses, let me add to that. Now, I think, and I'm glad you said it. You hit it right on the head. I think some of the demise of most relationships are unmet expectations.
Expectations.
Okay,
Yes.
they really are because I mean I may have the expectation in my head, you know what I'm saying, and this is what I expect, but I haven't verbalized it to my partner, and they have no idea that this is my expectation, or I verbalized it, and this is an expectation that they can't meet. You know,
Mm.
so often the demise of a lot of relationships is uh, unmet expectations. I agree
And
with you.
and unrealistic expectations.
You just say I was about to say that.
And
Yes.
unrealistic. Like I want
Yes.
to share. I won't say names, but I had a family member, female family member, come pull me aside. She said, "I was really liking this guy, and we were talking, but he talking about he expect sexual activity on 7 days a week." She's like, "Ooh, that's a bit much, ain't it?" I'm like, "You asking me?" But I mean, that's back to it. Is that realistic? It
Mhm.
depends on how you feel about it. But I think you need to pull him aside and talk straight up. Like, look, I'm not with that.
And
This is
that
what I
brings
bring
us
to
to
the
a lot
table.
of compromise, though, and it won't always be equal.
Right. But again, that's
Mhm.
back to that communication. But
And
it's
that.
further than communication.
Mhm.
It's back to that contractual agreement.
Mhm.
It's actually slow to get up, but that's because I think it's
Oh, was someone saying something? No? Okay. So now let's roll into the pressure and the partnership. Now we're on finances. What
Ooh,
happens when you are or you are not with someone that understands earning a dollar, saving a dollar, investing a dollar, and moving your dollar to the future? What if you are with someone that can't do that?
Mm.
How do you shift that back into place? If your partner or somebody y'all know, their partner is a frivolous spender, and you are more analytical with your spreadsheet, and you're making sure that you are including your tithes in there, and you are saving for yourself, and so on and so forth. And Miss Mellisa, we want to get this comment from M that says, love is driven by God. We want to add that into the equation. Should have been first.
Yes.
Okay, should have been first. And thank you, M, for adding that in for us. But moving back to the finances, I mean, I don't know about you all, our panelists, and all of those who are listening, but when my husband and I started dating, we weren't asking for each other's credit score. We didn't know each other's, financial standing and such until later in life. And then, as Moses said, I want to touch on that too. Good money management really starts to happen young.
should.
Now, yeah, it should start to happen young. But, and I want to add this in too. Sometimes money management is making it happen with what little bit you got. That's money management. So dive in, if you will, to how men view their roles financially in the
Ooh.
relationship. How do you view your role? Um, Darrell, where'd you go?
Yes.
You want to dive in or should I?
Um, wow.
And that was
In all
how
reality,
men view their role financially.
I view my
Mm.
role, head of the household, managing everything that I'm supposed to uh, uphold that. But nowadays, it takes two. A lot of
Mhm,
people can't with the prices of things and everything can't afford to manage their money uh, and doing everything by themselves. Um, in my opinion, but I don't know.
And if anyone else wants to jump in, I'd also like for you to add in your discussion, when you have to share the load, what does that do to you? Or are you glad about it? You got somebody to share the financial load with. Anybody want to dive in, Moses?
I do. I do. Bertha, I think you and I have talked about this in the past. So I believe you may know that I fully go against the grain in this way about money. I'm
Mhm,
gonna share a little bit about this. And for me, I read everything. I'm a big time reader, so I read, and I'm always about, you know what? It can't just be about what you think. Give me your source. Who else of consequence has that you got this information from, right?
mhm,
But
mhm,
for example, unfortunately, for many Black men, the thought from our fathers and grandfathers, those who came up from the Great Migration, per se, was to come and get that job and provide and protect and be the king of your castle and run the roost, right? Rule the roost. I'm sorry. But to this generation, that wouldn't fly. I just think that for many Black women, they come to the table with similar expectations like, look,
mhm.
I went to school like you did. I
Exactly.
got
Mhm,
A's and B's like you did. What
mhm,
makes you think because you stand when you face the toilet to pee and I sit that you're supposed to make the decisions on how our household is run,
mhm,
especially with the money? And again, in reality, this may be an uncomfortable reality for many men, but man, really and truly, do you expect to make enough money from your one salary that you're going to run a middle and upper middle class household? Like Darrell just said, in today's generation, it takes two in most cases to have
mhm,
enough money to be comfortable. And then two, if you're going to accept my money, you better expect to accept my opinion. And so it comes back to, I look at what Warren Buffett said about this. Warren Buffett said, he's consistently stated that marrying the right person is one of the most important decisions a person will ever make, with
mhm,
benefits that will affect overall happiness and success in life.
mhm,
He says
mhm,
he often compares choosing a spouse to choosing a business partner. I'm going to say that again. Choosing a spouse compared to choosing a business partner, emphasizing the need for aligned values,
mhm,
mutual support, and realistic expectations.
mhm,
So
mhm,
again, if we're talking about it that way, so how are you truly viewing your relationship? So I'm proud to say my wife and I went into our marriage with the understanding that we were forming what we called a mutual liability partnership. Meaning, if you F up, we F up. Here,
mhm,
money is where the rubber hits the road when you talk
mhm,
about giving way from the me to the we replacing the me. When I was just running my money, all circumstances, all consequences came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now we talking about money, our money. It don't matter who make what, who make more. It's about our money. Because you know what? If your credit bad, our collective credit bad.
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying. And so if you are overspending, we overspending. And so I may be an outlier in this way. My wife and I'm a bit older than my wife. And when we came into our relationship, we got married, I was 30, she was 23. I was already early into my career. She was standing at the precipice of hers. So that meaning said, of course, I was making more money per se than she was. But right away, upon the time we got married, she got instant access to all of my financial information. That's back to that honesty, back to those
That's trust. Yes, yes, and
trust,
honesty.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some of my boys
Mm-hmm.
will say that's stupid. You know what I'm saying? But that's trust, because it's like, look, if you go into this account and mess up this money, even if you ain't put much in there, you mess up this money, our money messed up. And that's been the case from even before the 25 years. So really, truly, we bought our first home in the year going into our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that if you F this up, we effed up. It ain't
Mm-hmm.
just me effed up, you effed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore it required some financial back to it. Coming from different families, different backgrounds, financial literacy is not, it's like common sense. It's not as common as you may expect.
Right.
And so it took some time, some education. I mean, I was involved in investment before then. And so we went through it. I suggested some books for her, some books that we read together. You know, she wasn't quite familiar with Warren Buffett. She wasn't, familiar with better investing. And so therefore, we attended better investing courses through the Better Investing Foundation together. I was already a member of that organization. So then we ended up setting up accounts. So I introduced her, which is crazy. She jokes about it now. She's like, I was 19 years old. I had a work study job. And this man introduced me to a financial advisor that's telling me that if I just put $25 off to the side per month, this could happen. She's like, that $25 per month was for gas. I'm like, but I'm just saying, like, that's the type of exposure and realistic understanding that's required to have somebody be a true partner with you, in my opinion. I'll stop for a moment.
Okay, so let me throw this in too. That takes discipline to get to first, your financial knowledge and clarity has to happen. And then discipline has to happen,
Yes, Bertha. I believe this. When it comes to money, it's similar to weight management, right? Weight management, health, and money is very similar. It's first and foremost commitment. You got to make that commitment, right? And then it's easy math. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, my wife and I, probably most recently, I've read it years ago, and she revisited recently the book, not Warren Buffett, Fraser. And he's talking about money management, right? And he's talking about the percentages. Like 50% of that money that's your income, dual income, should be for your household, four walls, right? He's talking about paying for your house, everything, right? Utilities, 30% for your wants, 20% should be going towards investments, right? I'm real big on a millionaire next door type vision, but I mean, I'm a little more aggressive on the investment side of things. But if your husband or wife doesn't come from the background and knowledge of this information, then you've got to, put it on paper and make the commitment together. Like, we're going to study. We're going to learn this so that we can be better together for each other, for our family, in my opinion.
And I get that. When you say easy math, well, it's not always easy math. Sometimes
Percentages.
sometimes one partner or the other partner has that type of knowledge and the other doesn't. And what happens when neither has that kind of knowledge?
Bertha, I push
And-
back a little bit. I'm sorry. That's easy math. Like I'm talking about 8th grade math. You learn, like, I'm not even going into algebra. You just need to know how do you take what's 50%? You and your husband bring home $2,000 a month together. What's 50% of that? That's easy math. What's 30% of that? What's 20%? Now, where the challenge is the commitment to it. Because it's like, damn, I only had this much money to spend based on our allowances and that stuff. But man, I want that car. Well, no, you can't afford that car.
I know, but you got to include where we are right now in this world. Folks have lost their jobs. Let's throw that in the mix too. The whole dynamic is just a little bit different than what you're saying, Mr. Moses.
I just want to hear from somebody else. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I want to hear what other people say about that.
Anybody? Anthony?
So I'll jump in on this.
Rodney? Darrell?
Okay, Rodney has his hand up first.
I'm going to jump in on this. I'm going to give you a real life scenario talking about financial pressures. About 14 years ago, I retired from the Army, 2011. Have always worked since the age of 16. Didn't know what it was like not to have a job. And so my first job out of the Army, I was a contractor. And I felt like I was doing a good job, you know what I'm saying? But a month into the job, they fired me. And this is right after retirement. My good thing, my military retirement kicked in and my disability had kicked in. But being fired, I felt like it took a hit. And then my financial planning for us really took a hit. And that pressure of not working and not being able to financially support my family, I felt like it was a two elephants sitting on my chest. And my wife can attest to that. It was an emotional roller coaster for me. As a man, I did not know how to handle not being able to. Okay, not being able to provide. Yes, it was. Let's say it's a pride thing. I see Moses. It was a pride thing. Okay, because the wife was working too, but we're talking about from a man's perspective right now. Okay,
Yeah.
my perspective, it was a challenge that I wasn't quite ready for and didn't know how to handle because I'd never been in that position. And so when you talk about the financial pressures of being able to provide, I felt all that. I felt, as a Black man, okay, I felt it like, sisters be looking at you like, you can't be sitting at home, sitting on the sofa. You know what I'm saying? Why are you sitting up there, not doing anything? Or, the pressures of the man being at home while the wife is the breadwinner. I don't care what my wife makes. I really don't. I don't care how many degrees she got on her wall. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter to me. But I still felt that pressure, and it drove me up the wall. I mean, she could tell you I was up hours and hours applying for all kinds of jobs, to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at night, jobs that I knew I wasn't even qualified for, just so I could be working and feeling like I'm still contributing. So that pressure is real. That from a man's perspective, that is definitely a real pressure. It takes a very special person to be able to handle and feel confident. And again, it's all about preparation too. If you prepare for those incidents, then you prepare for it. Then
For sure.
You can endure the storm a little bit. But I was not anticipating that. I was anticipating something a whole lot bigger, say on the other side, and it did not happen. And again, being fired and not having that income coming in, it drove me up the wall. And again, you can adjust.
Rodney, can I press? Would you use the term emasculating?
Yes. I mean, I'm gonna be we've been honest.
Yes,
man,
yes.
I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, wait a minute. I've always been the guy who took care of a majority of the things in the house, you know what I'm saying? And it was emasculating. I mean, I was all over the place. I had many days I was crying. Yeah.
Because again, that's the part of the definition of manhood, really. Like, you know what? The expectation is you provide and protect, right?
Anthony
Okay.
chime
Yes, yes.
As Anthony chimed in after him, we do have a lot of people online sharing some thoughts, and I want to kind of throw some thoughts of what they're saying.
Please do. Yes.
So Anthony, you go ahead and chime in, and then I will read some of the comments from our YouTube audience.
Okay.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hold you. I fully lost sight of the question at this point, but I'm gonna just share what I was thinking.
Okay.
So when Bertha shared that early on in like the dating phases and all, the questions of like what's your credit score was never asked, and I think that is a fair thing. Most people don't ask those questions early on, but I do think, and for me, everything goes back to like what foundation are you building with this person that you are pursuing, that you will fall in love with, potentially be with, like what does that look like? And although you may not ask the credit score questions, I do think it is important that you are doing your best to be in tune with that person. So now you're picking up on how they value a dollar, how they spend. Like you might not know what that bank account says, but you can pick up on the habits that they have with their money.
That's true.
And then how does that align with your habits? Like, do you see this as this person can help me? Do you see this as this person will be blowing my money? Like, what does that look like? And I'm saying my, because at that point we ain't together yet. So then you get into that space where you are now together and that merge happens and my money becomes our money and vice versa. Because you can meet some people who have the perspective of yours is mine and mine's is mine too. But you need to find that out on the front end before you get into a tough situation. And now that whole dynamic is thrown off because something may have happened on your part. So I would say, long as y'all have a financial understanding and now you're in that space, for me, I try to be mindful that the financial perspective is fluid. Like it could be a situation where I am providing for the most part, and it might be a situation where we're sharing, and it might be a situation where it's all on my partner now. And I feel like as long as we are both actively trying to make sure we are contributing in ways that support us moving forward, then we can make this work. Because I do think, although we share some amazing advice, you do just have to be mindful of your situation. Like me and my person, we just may not get down like that, but do we get down in a way that is productive for us? And I think that is a piece I would share for folks to focus on, to plan, to try to elevate whatever that looks like for you, but do that within the confines of the outline, the blueprint of what you all can do. And of course you want to try to, and again, if that's what y'all want to do, but of course you want to try to grow and try to figure things out. But you got to be mindful of the context of your situation as well. I think those things are important.
No,
I totally agree. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things when you hear couples talk about money, it goes back to the beginning stage of what we talk about, communicating it. If I can communicate it, I can figure out how have we built that trust factor for me to now start saying I want to share my money with this, with each other, right? So I love how we're moving this forward. Just to go into our chat, then I go on our YouTube. Fernando said, my wife and I run a business and our finances together. And it's our money. We run it through our corporation. We make financial decisions together, responsibility, and all else. It's not my money. It's our money as a family. That's what he mentioned. We talk about how we start our day, where we are midday, and how we ended our day. That's big communication right there.
That's healthy. That's healthy.
And T. Jones Lewis says that is that is an unfortunate pressure that Black men face. And then online, Tara wants to say to Rodney, she said she appreciate your honesty. LaShawn mentioned some spouse are too immature financially to have full access.
That's true.
That part. And then she says it takes.
Can we unpack that one?
Wait a minute. Yeah, we're coming back. We're coming back. Go ahead, Mellisa.
My spouse.
Hold on. We're coming back.
You starting something, honey. LaShawn, you starting something. It says, so she also said, it takes discernment and a look at at foundational strength and weaknesses in financials, or we all on the streets. Yeah, that part. Okay. And then Jamel mentioned marriage is a business and we have to have partnership meetings. I like that right there.
Yeah.
Your
I do too.
outside people are not shareholders. Ooh,
No,
your
there you go.
people are not what?
Put
Shareholders.
that in the
So they
chat.
don't
Put that in the chat. We need to
There you
remember
go.
that. That's
they
powerful
don't count, he
there.
said. They don't count, okay? Them shareholders.
That's
So
what that's
so
what
the
I'm sorry, that's what Biggie told us. Keep your family and money completely separated, right?
you have to, right? And then he says, where he says, so marriage is affected by both parties' action as an entity. Then we have
Thank
happy
you
spouse.
for that. Mhm.
Then he says happy spouse equal a happy spouse. Wait, he said happy spouse equals happy spouse, not just a happy wife. Ooh, I like that too. And the last thing he says is it's a dance. Marriage is a dance. You have to find your rhythm and talk to what you can move with and when to get out or push through. Ooh, that was good. And what else? I think David says, I believe everyone can do it. It is a learned behavior.
Mhm.
Ah,
Mhm.
Brought
Mhm.
a lot of stuff in
Nice.
our
Thank
I
you.
like that.
Thank you. Yes,
We have
indeed.
about 20 people online watching on our YouTube channel, and we have people here. So thank you all for tuning in. Go ahead, Miss
Indeed.
Bertha, take it away. This is getting really heated,
It
y'all.
really, really is. And I don't want to lose track too much. But we were talking about, okay, so money and how it's supposed to work. But how do you reset the finances when it's that far gone? Is there resetting finances when it's that far gone, when it's broken down, when you're losing things? Or is that a deal breaker in a relationship? And how
I think
easy is
that
that
go ahead,
conversation
go
to
ahead,
have
Darrell.
with your partner?
Go ahead,
Hmm?
Darrell.
Ways it can be a deal breaker, or it can be repaired. It just depends on the commitment and the communication of each other. You know, you have
Mhm.
to sit down and discuss it and be honest.
And that's how you reset it.
I think that's how you
Really, you
start.
say what you gotta say, you be transparent and you let it burn for a minute, because that is an uncomfortable space to be in sometimes, to say, oh, I'm just now looking at all the money I mismanaged for the month, and I gotta be honest, with my husband, with my wife. So yeah.
Because
Mhm.
the one
That's a
thing is
hard thing to do, but
being in a relationship or in a marriage, and you
mhm.
get into that hardship and you uncover that extra spending that was being done that you didn't know nothing about, especially on the man's side.
Mhm. Mhm. Women
Uh,
too.
I
Mhm.
do that. And it.
I was.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I I would. I'm like, first off, I love my money. Like, I just want to be clear. Like, and I say that from this perspective. Like, I know how hard I work, and the money is the reward for the work. So it's like I love that piece of it. So to show you how much I love my wife, like I give her that money. Like, so everything to me goes back to that foundation. So and then there's the context of it. So you understand this process of, and I'm using this more metaphorically. I hope people
Mhm.
understand that.
Mhm. Mhm.
This process of how much I love you, and then to mistreat that love is very problematic for me. So
Mhm.
then when you talk about how do you repair that process, it is how, and I think it goes back to when we talked about things being unconditional or conditional, how we talked about contract, like we have to go back and we need to revisit some things
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
what we agreed and understood before we got into this place. Because I
Mhm.
do feel like, in my opinion, mismanagement of money is on the same lines of infidelity. Like all of these things are the
Mhm.
same to me. Like
Mhm.
you are
Mhm.
messing with how we are functioning right now, and this
Mhm.
could cause an end to us. So
Mhm.
you really have to go back and revisit from the beginning, like what did we agree on, and who ain't following the rules anymore, and
Mhm.
you have to kind of rework some of those things, and it might be too far gone depending on what happened. Or it may be something where it could be like, you're right, and we need to back up and we need to readjust. I do think that's where the patience and the honesty and all of those things come
Mhm.
into play.
Mhm.
Um, but we got to get that. I think it's doable depending on what happened. It's
All
doable.
right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know we got some comments in the chat coming in about that exchange. All right. So now we talked a lot about proof already. Building trust through honesty. Why would you say men sometimes holds back on their truth? They give you just enough, but then there's that little piece right there. Complete transparency. Or is that not true? Are you comfortable with being completely transparent? Or do you hold some things back because does it reveal something about you that you think is going to be negatively received? Like an insecurity?
I
I just
think
wonder
Anybody?
who gonna
I
say it
think
first.
I think oftentimes sometimes men hold back the truth based off of their past hurt.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh yeah. So say for instance, if there was a time that I committed to telling the truth to somebody, or let me get this right. If I've been hurt in the past based off of me trying to be honest, right? It's gonna be hard for me to open up and be honest with people currently.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so that's just part of what I think.
And that's another piece too, rebuilding honesty, trust, rebuilding trust. That takes a lot. It takes time and consistency. It really takes time and consistency. You can't tell me that you're not going to repeat whatever mistake this is, and then not show me that you're going to correct the problem. You always have the opportunity to show that you are going to correct your problem. You know what I'm saying? Did I stray off a little bit? But we're still talking about trust, and we're still talking about, how we communicate when there is a problem, when there is a breakdown in trust and honesty. Let me reel myself in and ask any of our gentlemen. I mean, we say you communicate honesty. I mean, aren't there some trip ups? Don't you have some trip ups in communicating honestly? I mean, sometimes I think Rodney, you may have alluded to it, how some past hurts really influence that, you know? Okay. So we are going to move on to, and we talked a lot about communication already.
Hold on, bro.
Oh,
Can I jump in on that one?
yes,
Yeah,
please.
I thought that floor was still open. I
Oh, it
apologize.
is, it
So
is, it is, it
I
is.
think that is twofold. I think it is difficult when you experience life with a person. I'm hearing around the room like there's been some very long-term marriages, and I know there was relationships prior to those. So you could probably throw anywhere from 5 to 10 more years on top of that. So these people knew you before you became who you were going to be.
Mhm.
So they were a part of a lot of the mistakes that you have made and the trial and error and all of those things that they may not necessarily be aware of. And if you were to get with someone who met you as your better formed version, some of those past stories may not be as relevant, even if you
Uh-huh.
shared them. And
Mhm.
now it's like I'm sharing these things with you, and this person knows everybody that I'm talking about. And it's like that could be problematic. So sometimes you hold back on those truths. But the part that I was wondering if anyone would say,
Mm.
and I'm gonna be completely honest, and I still am honest regardless because I would say I have a bad memory, so lying
This is
never gets
right.
me in a good space because I'll forget anyway. So I got to tell
Right.
the
Mhm.
truth so I can better remember it.
Mhm.
But it is a scary thing to live in that land of truth because those truths can be used against you, can be weaponized against you. And I'm like, I know most women are well aware of how sharp their tongues can be,
Mhm.
and I think it is a scary thing to give ammunition to a woman to be able to use towards you in an argument. Now, if I didn't share with you this experience that I had growing up, and now we get into an argument, and you like, are you doing
Mhm.
this because of when you was 9? And you like, are you
Yeah.
serious? Like, that's what you're
Mhm.
gonna say right now?
Mhm.
And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to give you that ammunition to at some point use against me to win an argument because you may be angry or because egos came into play. And now it puts us in a space where this simple argument is something that we can't even recover from because I gave you information. Now I'm like, I'm never telling you anything again. And I will say, I think men tread that line of like, I'm just not even going to go there with you because I'm not going to even give that to you in the first place.
That degree of vulnerability is very, very difficult for men. And I think it's difficult for women as well, but vulnerability is required for true honesty in a relationship. But that is a heavy lift.
Man.
Because that was the next question. Tools that can help men open up vulnerability and working your way up to being vulnerable. And how
back,
I think that's over
uncomfortable that
time.
might be. I'm sorry.
Back to it though. If we're going to have this type of conversation and it's truthful and honest, but here's an uncomfortable truth. For most of us as Black men, if we look back to what I said about family of origin, we are not typically emotionally mature. Regardless, we 55, 60, but we are not emotionally mature, which means have access to all of our emotions and are able to properly share those emotions in front of others. Yeah. You know, I've never seen a man cry till a man die. That's ridiculous. Never tell your son that you love him because you don't want him to be weak. Are you serious? Like that type of stuff that we learn and have to unlearn makes it very difficult because we're not emotionally mature enough to be husbands and fathers that we want to be.
I fully agree with that. I think a lot of that is the intersection of what it takes to especially in our work in the space that I grew up in, like there were pieces that I had to be hard in order to be safe, in order to survive. And I do think pieces of that overlaps into relationships very easily. Where you just a wall to this person because that's safe. That gets me home tonight. Like it's like, but you shouldn't be that way in that space. But that is a difficult thing to navigate in a relationship.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody else want to add in? You want to add in? Okay, so when we're talking about communication, I think we hit on it a little bit, but how do you restore peace when conflict is frequent? How does a man or, men say they can restore peace in the middle of conflict when there is frequent conflict? Anybody want to jump in on that? How to restore peace when conflict is frequent? Go ahead, Anthony.
I think, and this is just how I've worked this out in my head. So I'm still a work in progress, whichever one with this one. But what I worked out in my head is I do my best, and it takes me some time, and I'll own that because I'll sit quiet for a couple of days before I say something. For one, I try not to say anything that I can't take back. Understanding that I might apologize, but those words are in the air and those words belong to the person who heard them now. So I often choose silence when I'm angry. But I also do my best to try to remove my ego. And I think about the longevity of us. I think it is easy for us to be in a relationship and y'all had one argument and you be like, this is the worst relationship ever. When it's like, no, realistically, y'all got into an argument once this month and the other days were fine. And it's like, so my wife always, she'd be like, are we getting divorced behind this? And it'd be like, no, so let's just figure it out because we're not going nowhere. So I think a lot of it is just removing that ego and being okay with just saying, I'm sorry, letting it go, making sure you don't repeat the behavior and then moving forward. And
but
I think everything
you gotta really pause first. Like you said, sometimes you shut down. Sometimes that shutdown is okay. to pause
Yeah,
first.
and we had an
And you
understanding
said
that
in your
we take some
pause, you
time
really
if we need it.
processed it. You ain't get revved up. You
Yeah.
processed this whole thing so that when you did come back together, you could,
Yeah.
communicate clearly. I can appreciate that.
And I will say this too, because I know someone shared a comment about shareholders. I can agree with that to an extent, but I do think it is highly important that you have a community of people, male or female or whatever you need. I would say for men, you need men around you to have a
Yes.
conversation with you in a space that
Yes.
you can say what you need to say, how you need to say it, and they let you get your bars off, and then they be like, all right, now let's reel it back in. I think that is highly important. Highly important. And I think it would be the same for a woman to have a space where they can say what they need, but they have some people around them that have been successful in relationships that can have conversations to be like, no, that's normal. You tripping. Try it this way. And I don't think it's healthy to try to tackle those things on your own. You need a community. That's been my experience.
Absolutely. Okay. Anyone else? Miss Mellisa, do we have any comments that we want to throw in right here?
Yes, we can throw this in and then we're gonna go straight to our scenario so we can
Yes.
the forum for people to speak. So we do have True State again from LaShawn, and we do have M stating that put your faith in God, yes, and He will let you know what your next move will be. I think we are moving away from adding God into the conversation. You better drop that right now. It's not always easy. Trust to know it's not. I think that's an older ideology. That's from M. So thank you for sharing that directly in the scenario. This, you know what, Miss Bertha, like Dr. Bertha, I realize this conversation just can't be just this is a part 2 from your podcast, but
Yes.
I love this because it's so much can be talked about, so much can be shared.
Yes.
And I would love
Absolutely.
to hear how these wives chime in also on this conversation, because this is from the man's perspective. And I love that
Yes.
we're giving you guys the space to speak and have that authenticness, I may be saying it wrong, amongst yourself to talk about, this information, because now it's real. It's not like, you're not putting on a show. And I love Moses. Moses know how to look. He said, look, I all gloves off, mask off. I'm gonna tell him what it is, And I think that's what's needed in this season.
Transparency.
That
Yes.
transparency. And somebody said something, I think it was Moses that said it earlier, the statement that I would say black man, because my ex-husband says all the time to my daughter, black man don't cry. And when and then my daughter will remind him, Daddy, but remember that day when you cried upstairs? And I said, yeah, I remember, because that was when I left. That's when we left. Okay.
And she digresses. She digresses.
Cut my camera off.
Right. You lost yourself. That's okay. That's okay.
My goodness.
Okay.
Like it's like certain things over for our culture we say, and we adapt to our family family, and thinking that it's okay. It is not. Certain sayings, certain behaviors, certain, and we adapt that, and then our kids adapt that same thing, right? So I just feel like this conversation is so needed. So thank you, Bertha aRise, Dr. Bertha White, for really hosting us, and for these amazing speakers sharing from their heart. And I love that word, sharing from their heart. This is not, we didn't program this. We didn't put a script fully together, but we structured it where we can have a dialogue. So thank you. So we can go right into the scenarios. That'd be wonderful.
Okay. So
I think
I
Moses
want
has to jump in on something.
I'm sorry, Moses.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. I just want to say, what you just said, and we were just talking about black men and emotional intelligence and having full access to emotion, and black men don't cry and stuff like that. We need to be very, very careful with that reality.
Absolutely.
Because look at the statistics over the past 10 years of black male suicide, 15 to 35. That's telling me a whole lot about unrealistic expectation of what it means to be a man as far as in the Black community and how emotionally we can't handle that. Just be careful.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, y'all. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So here are our scenarios. Now we're talking about when things go wrong. And it'll probably be a recap of some of the things that we've already said, but when things go wrong. Scenario number 1 is when finances collapse and intimacy suffers. So help us to understand from a man's point of view, what happens when things go wrong? In this scenario, the finances collapse and intimacy suffers.
I'd like to say those. So for one, those are the top 2 reasons that people get divorced:
Right.
finances and intimacy.
Three
But
is
I
children.
think
3 is
it's the
communication.
Children.
I think those things are like cracks in the foundation. And I always go back to that because I feel like you build on your foundation. And there's a lot of things that can make cracks in that foundations, but I do think if those things are not tended to, then that's when it allows room for someone else to come in and try to fill those cracks in your relationship. So it's like you need to address them and you need to figure out what that's going to look like. Especially if we, and again, going back to that foundation, we had a conversation about how we would handle finances. We had some conversation about what our intimacy looks like. It might have been that 7 days a week. It might have been like we need to be doing something a couple times a month, whatever that looks like. But now we're falling short in those areas. It just leaves a void that oftentimes it is a space for someone else to try to fill. And I think that is when those DMs start to sound a little different, or that person at the gas station, you heard them a little different this time because you have these cracks in your foundation and this person is offering to fill those and you're feeling like you're not getting that from home. So I feel like first you have to take some responsibility on your end to be like, what am I doing to try to help fill these holes, these cracks within my home? Am I initiating conversation? Am I revisiting the rules? Is this my fault? Like, you got to be real with yourself about that, because it might be a conversation that you might be going through something emotionally, and it is now hard for you to attach to your person intimately. And that's the conversation you need to have. So that person is not feeling like, is it me? Is it something that I'm doing? Because I think it's easy to point that finger at yourself if your partner is feeling away. And sometimes it ain't got nothing to do with them. I've been working long hours. I just really be tired when I get home. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that I wasn't touching you. Like, those conversations just have to happen. And it's literally like, if you don't figure out how to fill those voids, you get that cement and you fill those cracks in your home, is a good chance those things will be filled by somebody else. So it's like, you got to address them. You really do. Head on would be my suggestion.
All right. Rodney, were you going to say something? Darrell? No? Thank you for that, Anthony. Thank you for that. That's real. Thank you for that.
Can I ask Anthony this question then? Because I've always heard this statement, like there's two, what is it? There are two main things to a man's heart, food and sex. So if these 2 things are not met, would you say they will now lead to those cracks in that relationship?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a lot more than food and sex. I think that's more of a cliche, the sex piece for sure. People will find something to eat. I think the food is more of a complement to the sex in opposed to being a separate thing. But yes, I think that's conversation. I think that is compliments. I think all of those things are cracks. And now if you're not filling them and you're not expressing that you need them filled, you are open to someone else stepping in and doing it. I think that's how you end up going through somebody's phone and seeing a bunch of conversations. It's like they may not necessarily even want to ever step out with that person, but their void is being filled. So they bring it on so they can feel whole. So you got to have those conversations and be honest with your partner if you're not feeling like things are being met. I think it becomes really problematic if you start to share those things several times over and it's still not being met. Then that's a different conversation. But if you have things that you feel like need to happen and you never said anything,
Right.
It's like you have to understand how much you're contributing to that problem as well. Got to speak up.
That part.
So I like to say to Dr. Lambert, we are simple, but we ain't that simple.
Yeah, right.
We
I
ain't
can
that
eat them
simple.
all.
Yeah, I can see myself. But
Right.
yeah.
All
And with
right,
some,
all right,
hey,
all right.
hey, and honestly speaking, with some Vaseline and some lotion, you can do some other things yourself too.
Right.
Yeah, I
I'm
get
just
old
saying.
though.
I'm just saying this
I
cat
get
this
old. I
cast
need
has
a
done
warm
18 to
body.
25 without a woman. So I mean, there's things that
It
can
is
be
fast.
done. And I want to say this. I think that is shallow, but I think we also got to be very, very, very careful and recognize that there's more to relationships and the word intimacy than just sex.
1000%.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Oh, I
100%.
think we put
Yeah.
far too much
Mhm.
value on the term sex in the role of intimacy. And then another piece of it too, I think we're also, they say men do this, but I think women do too quick to play on the inherent insecurity and lack of vulnerability that people are comfortable with in relationships by quickly pointing to the likelihood that there's a maintenance man or a cleanup woman sitting waiting on your missteps. I think you got to be careful with that. Yeah. Because again, why play into that on those insecurities and expect to come around and she or he not remember and internalize those insecurities that you just reminded them of. And now you want to go to the mall, and now you want to go for a car ride. And when you stop at the gas station and the woman is winking at you and she waiting on your response, you wonder why you so insecure. Well, shit, you just was talking about insecurities 2 weeks ago. I'm just saying. Be careful.
I'm with you.
Can I add one more point real quick?
Sure
Because
can.
when we talked about the mental health of men, and I know
Yeah.
that's more of a cliche when it says feed a man, have sex with a man, and he's good. But I think that part of the emotional need that a man needs is so underrated.
Yes.
It is difficult for men to even express because it's not even an expectation that I feel
Yeah.
no, I have feelings and things bother me and
Right.
like that's a real thing, and we get put into a box where we're not even allowed to acknowledge that, and it's just the intimacy of like I just want you to touch the back of my head
Yeah.
and I'm good but it's not, we're not allowed to talk about that for real. It's like, nah, if we ain't laying down, then as long as we lay down, you're good. And it's like, nah, when we drive in, I want you to rub my knee. It hurt. Like when we be there with me. Like those things are important. And I think they're never discussed when you talk about men in relationships.
So
I agree.
let me jump in on this. One of the
Yes.
things that my wife and I have implemented like over like the last month is like the 2-minute hug, 2-minute hold. You know what I'm saying? You do nothing. You just come in, you know what I'm saying? You hold and you just don't say nothing. You just stand there and hold each other for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's great intimacy. You know what I'm saying? For me, you know, I mean, it could lead to other things, but this is what is needed today. You know, it's a relief from the day. I couldn't wait to get home to hold you, to release that deep breath. You know what I'm saying? From the day, you know what I'm saying? Let me just hold you.
Thank you.
All I need.
Does it bring a sense of peace and calm?
That's the intent. Yes. For both. For both. Because I mean the world is a heavy place right now.
Sure enough.
You know, there's a lot
That's
of
one
things
of those
going
action
on.
items of love too that you spoke about.
Yes.
It is.
Right.
It is.
That's that action item.
That's a part of your love language, maybe that affection.
Right.
But
Right.
what is that? You know what I mean? So
That's a
again,
new
it comes
form.
back to those actions. You feel like you're making all the right actions, but again, you still got to have that knowledge of your partner and know what that love language that they speak is, so that you are putting forth the correct actions for that person. Because old girlfriend, when you were 16, and her love language and the wife that you have now may not be the same.
Yeah. And even saying it that way, right? Over time, your love language will change.
Right. That's right.
Just like how your
Fluid.
body changed, your personality reality change and you're growing up. So what may have been, like you said, my wife at 23, met her, what she felt then, maybe hers was affection, maybe hers was, she just loved, she wanted to communicate, whatever that is, it may change, shift over 20 years later, right? So I think that the problem so much now is like we're not dating each other. Like that 2-minute hug, there's so much can be into that. Like,
It's magnetic and
Yeah.
it is releasing and it is strengthening. It's like pouring,
and
you know?
about that, Miss Dr. Bertha, is it's like the fact that you don't have to say nothing.
Mm-mm.
Go back to Moses' statement, the action cause a reaction. That reaction can be how, what he will feel internally. He may not have expressed how his day was or whatever, but that hug will say, you know what? The world beat me down outside, but I'm here in the arms of the one I love, That right there is just everything. We should
It
all
does speak volumes. It speaks volumes,
Especially
you
after
know?
you kicked in the face all day long, you know what I'm saying? And you got, you've been fighting a war all day long, you know what I'm saying? Then, you come home, it's an ally, you know what I'm saying? Definitely, coming home to a peaceful place.
I love
All
that.
right, we're going to move on to our last scenario. It is, and we touched on this quite a bit, it is constant arguments and misunderstandings. What do you do about somebody that's always complaining? We talked about that in church today. Always complaining. How do you deal with it as a man when you have a partner that constantly wants to argue? I mean, will pick a fight, will start an argument so they don't have to do things together, whatever it is. How do you talk to somebody that misunderstands everything you say? Although you said A, B, and C, they didn't hear A, B, and C. They
I'm
heard
gonna go
R and
real quick
S.
on this one, right?
Yes.
What you just described, in my opinion, is not quite normal. So I can't really speak to that, except for I do believe there are certain circumstances that arise in relationships where it cannot just be a two-person communication, he, she. I think you need a third party, and that's
Yeah.
where therapy comes in.
Mm-hmm.
You need
Mm-hmm.
someone to help that other person, or help each of you understand where this is coming from, to truly, as Dr. Jones said, unpack what's going on so that you can find solutions to the challenges.
Mm-hmm. Thank
And that's
you,
where
thank
therapy
you,
comes
thank you.
in my
That's
opinion.
right.
And unfortunately, in our community, therapy is not always one of the things we go to early enough.
So that person who's complaining and wants to argue all the time, to me, has unfinished business.
Yes.
Stuff on their chest that they just can't get off their chest. You know what I'm saying? So instead of being open and honest about what's going on, let's just communicate and put it out there. Like I said, everything revolves back to communication. It really does.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
would
Thank
just
you.
jump in
Thank
really
you.
quick.
Thank you. Yes.
I think it is very easy to criticize the person who is on the stage performing, but most times people don't want to get up on the stage and perform. So if you are in a situation, and this is context always is important, but if you're in a situation where the arguments are based in some sense of criticism, I don't like the way you're doing this, you could be doing this better, things along those lines. I would invite that person on the stage with me. All right,
Yes.
cool. Since this, like, you have a better plan, or you want to do it differently, you are now, as far as the household goes, responsible for X, Y, and Z. And when I hear that question, I just think of a power struggle. And it might be a cry out for help. Like, I want to be more a part of this, and I don't know how to go about, and I don't know, this is not a detailed scenario that we're talking through.
No,
But
you're
I'm just
good.
like, how can I empower my partner to have more responsibilities in this. And then I think with that responsibility will come a better understanding and probably some explanation, some clarification to the complaints or the arguments that have been starting. So I'm like, cool, I'm gonna give you a role in this, so you can really be in it with me, so we can see what's going on. Like you really can see what's going on. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Even when you think about those who are they're arguing and the misunderstanding is, are we listening? Are we just
Right.
talking at each other and not really stopping? Dr. Bertha always said, respect the pause. Are we really respecting the pause to hear what Anthony's saying, not trying to in your brain already have an answer to what he's
Listen
saying?
to your response.
I brought that up, but he said, like, so this is what I'm hearing. And I think, again, the way we communicate has everything to do with everything. The way you do anything is the way you do everything, right? So I truly believe that's one of the things that that will set us apart when it comes to argument, right? How are we listening? So we can't, so we don't have to redo this. Because sometimes if you think about these arguments, it's repetitive. It's like a broken record. Like, because you like, I heard you said that last week. So the husband tuned her out. And she's talking. And she's like, well, you don't understand. He tuned you out last week. So that means you have to find another way to approach the matter without either yelling, without either raising your tone or pointing fingers. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is all, so that misunderstanding is more not having a better way of communicating.
Could be. Could be.
I like the communication with examples. So it's like, babe, why ain't the grass cut? And it's like, it's hot outside. You ain't been out there, so you don't know. Like, I'm trying to wait. Well, why don't you come out and cut it with me? So you can get this experience. And now you understand what I'm saying to you when I ain't trying to go out there and cut the grass. You get home, why the house dirty? Because I was taking care of the kids all day. Well, why don't you take a day off and stay with the kids and get a feel for what this is like? And you're like, oh, I get it now. These kids is crazy, and you don't have time to do nothing. Like, I have much better understand. So now I can actually receive what you're saying to me now because I get it. And so I was like, how can you put yourself in situations to add some experience to that understanding? And to me, I feel like you would get a deeper understanding for what that person is talking about. And better able to receive it as well, too.
Wow. So as we wrap up this part of the conversation, we want to open up to those who are online on YouTube. I want to say Tyra said thank you to Dr. Bertha and Rodney, who shared their 2 minutes hug, because she will be implementing that in her household. So thank you for that. And we're going to open up, if anyone on the Zoom, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, this is the time for you to raise your hand. Online as well, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can put it in and we can answer those for you. But if not, we're going to we're going to stop the recording. But before we stop the recording, I would like for everybody to do a round table to just kind of share maybe their plugins. If you have a website, if you have, a way to connect back with people, to connect back with you, that's be great. This episode, this conversation has been brought to you by Bertha aRise. This great woman called Dr. Bertha White. She is the CEO and the founder of this movement. I call it a movement because she's now taken mental health outside the walls. Meaning she's licensed in I believe it's Maryland and Virginia, correct, Dr. Bertha?
That's right.
But with Bertha aRise, she can take she can take her expertise around the United States and then around the world. So we're not saying she's going to be your therapist, but she is an expert in the field that can have the dialogue with you. So please definitely connect back with Dr. Bertha, so she can kind of, lead you into what she's doing with Bertha aRise or with Agent of Change. If you're in the DMV area, she can definitely service you. So I'm going to, I don't see any response in our chat here or online. So if we can do a roundtable with all of the speakers, and then we can close it in with you, Dr. Bertha, and then I will stop the live.
So then, well, then let's just do a recap. Roundtable conversation. What do you want to, and you deposited so much, you can't just choose one thing that you want to leave everybody with. I hope folks, and I meant to say this at the top of the hour, came with your notepad and ink pen. You know, because some things were said and some points were made that we really need to carry along with us. So I cannot thank you all enough. We got to have a part two. We got to have a part two. I hope I can count on you all to join us again, you know, so we can continue the conversation, because that was good. It was transparent. It was with wisdom. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. We would not have known all of this had you not said all of this. So I appreciate you sharing. I know there's so many out there that can relate to what you said. And I would like for you all to friend request me on Facebook at Bertha aRise. Make sure that you do that so you can keep up on the next events that are coming up. I want to thank you, Miss Mellisa, for all that you do. I appreciate you. And now, are we closing? We are closing.
We're closing the live, but we're going to be going into our breakout room shortly.
Well,
just
let's
for-
do breakout rooms. Okay,
Yes,
so I don't
yes.
want to say that part.
So can we
Okay.
just have the speakers to just go ahead if they want to share their plugins? That'd be great as well. Or if not, we just, they can leave their last statements or their last closing thoughts for the live.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Dr. White said earlier during my introduction, when she said, my line is to get men to understand that they're not alone. That is absolute. Oftentimes we as men think that we are doing this thing by ourselves.
Mhm.
But if you look to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, the brothers in those areas are going through the same thing. And it's just, I think it's a great opportunity for brothers to reach out and talk to each other more, because that's not what we normally do as men, reach out and talk, because it goes to that trust factor again. So that's what I would like to leave the room with.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anthony, did you have your hand up? Did you want to go next?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you and Mellisa for putting this together and creating a platform for us to be able to have conversation.
Absolutely.
I talked about building community, and I think this is a great way to make that happen, definitely on a larger scale. If anyone wanted to contact me, you can find me on Facebook at Anthony Jones, on Instagram at Ante Jones 330. Or you can find me at Lena May Consulting, spelt out as it sounds, MAE for the May. Yeah, looking forward to a part two. I think this was great.
Good, 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 good. All right. Darrell, are you there?
I am here. I want to thank you, Ms. Bertha and Dr. Mellisa and Dr. Anthony, Rodney, Moses. I would just like to share and leave that for Black men, please do not be scared to seek help as from counselors or whatever you need to do. I'm one of them guys that I if something's wrong, I want it fixed. That's just me. So I just say to guys, please don't be ashamed to ask for help, get help, talk to people, communicate. Communication is it. Nobody needs help or anything's going on if you don't speak. So, and I always talk to my brothers. So, Rodney, Anthony, Moses, love you guys, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for joining in. Please make sure you leave your comments, and you can watch this again on YouTube. Miss Mellisa has all of the information in the chat.
Awesome. And we did, Moses, I know you didn't get a chance to finalize your closing
Oh,
thoughts.
I'm sorry. I'm closing things out, Moses. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me,
Sorry.
it's just more of a thank you. Thank you. This is a dream come true for me. Again, I'm sure it's revealed. I'm 55 years old. I'm retired. And I grew up on both those Cosby shows, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted what Claire and Cliff had.
Mhm.
And therefore, I wanted to make the necessary changes in my thought process that would welcome an empowered, beautiful Black woman to my life.
Mm.
And I encourage other guys to really look at it from the perspective of who would I most like to partner with and choose that person that fits.
Wow. Well, again, I want to say thank you all so much. This really warmed my heart. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bertha, for trusting me
You're
with this
welcome.
opportunity to share your entire circle. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Dr. Anthony. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Darrell, for just taking the initiative to say, yes, I want to be open and be real and share to the world what's on my heart. I truly appreciate each and every person that stayed. Those who were actively talking on the live on the YouTube. Let this go viral. This is conversation that needs to go viral to be able to help not just only our own race, but the man race. There's so many there's so much burden on you guys, and the world beats you down, like you said, daily. And this is something that will uplift each other. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Mellisa, Mellisa Lambert. What I love about this conversation, it brings together my newest book that's coming out. It's called 365 Days of Prayer and Affirmation for the Woman I Love. And this is a guide for husbands to really not only just cover themselves, but really speak some life and truth within their to their wives. And I have the wife one that the wives that theirs is coming out too, which is already released 365 days of prayer and affirmation for the man I love. So I truly believe that the unity that is needed in this day and this conversation top it off for me. And I want to say thank you. This was amazing.
It was
So
phenomenal.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you and everyone. So
Phenomenal.